Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host and your moderator. I'm also the creator and the publisher of TheChocolateLife.com. Today, I am excited to have another one of my favorite episode formats, which is a live interview and tasting. And today, joining me all the way from Medellin, Colombia, is Nataly Nicholls, who is the founder of Magno Chocolates. Nataly, welcome to Pod Save Chocolate.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure to have you here. And this is going to be a fun episode for me because we're not only going to be doing a chocolate tasting, but we're going to do a chocolate and coffee pairing. And I have to admit, mi español está mejorando. It's improving, right? But I had to go, seamos honestos. So let's be honest.
Yes.
Seamos honestos. Nada como un magnífico maridaje.
Pairing.
Right? So yeah, pairing. So marriage, I was thinking, but yeah, pairing makes a whole lot more sense. There's nothing more magnificent than a pairing, right?
Of coffee and
coffee,
chocolate.
of coffee and chocolate. And so before we get to the tasting and pairing part, what I want to do is I want to just do a quick shout out. If you're watching live, go into the live chat in YouTube or into the comments in LinkedIn and Facebook and let us know where in the world you're connecting from. We'll get that shout up on screen saying thank you very much for joining us today. And also, if you have any questions for Nataly, get them into the comments and I'll get them up on the screen and Nataly can answer them for you. So before we get into the tasting and pairing part of this, Nataly, it's like Medellin, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly.
Yes, that's
some people
perfect.
say Medellin, as somebody who grew up in, learning Spanish in the United States, it's always double L. I had this, crazy experience in entry when I was in Bogota in 2022, trying to explain where I was going and explaining to the immigration officer that I was going to Valle du Par, right? And he had no concept of where we're going. But so number one, we know Colombia is an origin of some fabulous beans and some fabulous chocolate, but why, what inspired you to get into the confectionery business? And what are some of
Yes.
the challenges associated with, number one, challenges associated with being a woman in a confectionery business in Colombia, particularly?
Yes, exactly, Clay. That's like a really good question because when I started, like I'm actually an engineering. So you might be asking like how an engineer ended up making chocolate, and it has to do that when I started like in this entrepreneur world, like in Medellin, is very well recognized like locally and also international because there is a lot of people that is entrepreneur. So a lot of my friends, a lot of my family, like my father is an entrepreneur. So I was always like breathing this like air of entrepreneurial things. So I was thinking in having a brand of about gifts. So I was wanting something about gifting, and I was like, but what should I choose? And I started to think about it, and sometimes when I was trying to give a gift to someone, you don't know like what do they like sometimes, or if you don't want to give just like a little detail, like what should I give to, for example, a man? It's difficult. So I started to do like research, and I love desserts. I'm a sweet tooth. Like I love chocolate, of course, and everything in the pastry and desserts world. And I made a connection, and I was like, chocolate has been by tradition the perfect gift for the ones that you love or anyone in your life. So I did that connection. I was like, I want to have chocolate, but a really premium chocolate and with art. My mother, she's an artist, she paints. So I was thinking like in doing a connection about her skills about painting, and she has like teaching me like all these years and connecting that with chocolate. So I started this business with my mom in our kitchen from like scratch, and we start to like play with chocolate. And my husband gave me like a book about it's called The Chocolatier, and I start to read and like self-study, and it became like a passion for me and also to my mom, because she was like every time in my kitchen like doing different experiments. So this is how we ended up like doing more research in Colombia, and I found out we have this fine flavor cacao that is really well recognized internationally, and Colombia, the majority of our cacao is fine flavor cacao. And you that are an expert about this word, you know that there are few countries that can produce this special cacao. And I start to research more about this, and I realized that in Colombia we are exporting the cacao as we do with the coffee, just the grain as a commodity. Not We are not like putting added value to have like a final confection like this one that has art and that has like added value. So I was wanting to make a change and has like a brand with a really nice packaging and putting our love in every detail, in the decoration, in the ingredients that we use.
So I want to jump in here, and there are a couple of observations. Number one is I think that a lot of people who get into chocolate and confectionery don't necessarily start off with a culinary background. So just that's interesting, number one. And for me, I trained as a fine artist. I got into high technology, so computer graphics generally. And then I found my way into chocolate. So how does your engineering background,
Yeah,
right,
like
help you in terms of what it is that you're
actually,
making and doing today?
yes. So I think I have an engineering background, but I also did a specialization in marketing. And actually, like all my background has been working in marketing and sales. So like my last job was like one of the biggest hygiene companies in Colombia that is called Productos Familia, and I was attending the Caribbean market. So I have like an international view that also helps me also like to connect like how people, like if you see, I was in the Caribbean, which is really touristic, and in every port that I was arriving you see chocolate in all Caribbean islands. It's like wow. So because people love chocolate and it's the perfect gift. So I also did like that connection, and that also helped me to understand a little, like to understand an international like point of view.
So if we go and take a look at, so everybody, by the way, for every single episode of Pod Safe Chocolate, I put together a post on the Chocolate Life, and here is the post for today's episode. And you can find the links to watch the archive of this if you're not watching live, or want to refer to this later on. You can go there. And a quick overview: a link to the Magno Chocolates website, the pages on the website for what it is we're going to be tasting today. And oh, by the way, these are the links to the U.S. e-commerce site, just in case anybody is watching this. And there's no affiliate relationship here. I'm not being compensated for this in any way. But what I wanted to do is talk about this. You and I spent a fair amount of time, working on this map, and so this is a live map on the Chocolate Life right now. You can go there, and when we think about Colombia, we think about two things. I think if we think about coffee, and we think about cocoa. I mean, if I'm in the chocolate business, I will know of Lucre. If I'm not in the chocolate business, I will know the National Chocolate Company, right? And their brand Jet. But it looks, one of the interesting things is that it looks like all of the major ingredients for the products that you're making are sourced within Colombia. And
Yes.
that journey takes you all over. And so what it is we're going to be tasting today, which is this origin box, is not just an origin of Colombian chocolate, it's an origin of Colombian coffee, right? And it's also if there are any other flavorings that are used in here, you find it from within Colombia, working with farmers. So tell us about, so if people are interested, what you can do is you can click on this little sidebar here, and there is a list of all of the places in the country, and you can click around and find out what parts of the country these things are sourced by. It was fun putting this together. I just want to let everybody know it was a lot of fun. But talk about the sourcing journey, because you're not learning to make chocolate, so you're not manufacturing your own chocolate from here, as I understand it. So you're buying a commercial couverture, but you're thinking about all of these other flavors. And for anybody who's never been to Colombia, I mean, the food culture in Colombia is absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot of great stuff there. So talk, if you can, a little bit about the sourcing journey and how important it is to what it is that Magno is doing as the brand, not just the packaging and the decorations, the art of what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so we are more like, we are chocolatiers, and what we do is like we get source from these really special chocolates around Colombia. So we do like research, and we try different chocolates, and we pick the best ones that are like even chocolates like in this box. The chocolates that we have used, they even has won like in the international awards different medals, all of the three that we are gonna try today. So what we do is like we source from the best chocolate, and we create our fillings from scratch with natural ingredients. And this is like you mentioned, like we have like different regions also from origin, and it's also important, Clay, to make like a highlight here. And it's when I was starting to learn about chocolate, I entered to this course from a chocolatier in Madrid, Spain. And she told me about how to create the ganaches and everything for the fruits, and using like fruit puree. That is something that you can find commercially in many countries, but in Colombia you can't find those things. So when she was giving me like the recipes of the fillings, I was like, I cannot find this in Colombia, I cannot find this in Colombia. But we're like already processed fruits that they do like purees, so the flavor intensity is really strong, and they put, of course, another things to preserve. But in Colombia, what we have, and that I have to learn, is to do our fillings from scratch, from the fruit, from the natural fruit. It was a challenge in the beginning, because I have to try many times. In the beginning, the chocolates, like the shelf life was like 3 days, 5 days, then 1 week, 2 weeks. Right now it's 12 weeks. So we have to learn a lot of things to control the water, like many things inside, that it could last longer and we could have a business. So yeah, this is really nice, because this comes from the farmers, and we are also like supporting that like local business.
So just everybody know, the links to these pages for the products are on the US website, but everything is fulfilled from Colombia. So it's freshly made in Colombia. If you buy it in the United States, it's going to be shipped to you from Colombia. Just which for me was interesting, because this stuff arrived last week. I've had it for almost 10 days now, and we've been in the mid 70s here. So it's like 76 in my room right now. And how do I keep it, for the last 10 days to make sure that everything is in good shape? But what I want to do is go back to this map and just sort of orient people a little bit, right, for the origin of the cacao within the country. So one of the origins is going to be in the region of Tumaco, which is on the Pacific coast in, I believe it's the state of Nariño. That's there. We go up here. It's like Barranquilla, but there's a little town behind it called Santa Marta. And the mountains here are the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. And this is where some of the beans come from, as well as one of the coffees. No, not one of the coffees. I take that back. Just one of the beans. And out here we have Arauca, right? And I want to let you know that this town here, we're going to miss it. Bucaramanga is like my favorite city name, maybe in the world, right? I have this idea about creating a Japanese manga style comic about a cocoa farmer named Bukura, right?
Wow.
Right. And so we can have a Bukura manga, but that's just me
Yeah, it's a fun
playing
name.
with language. But then the coffees all come from this region here, in mostly in Antioquia, um, around Medellin. So,
Yes.
it's there, and berries, and it's fascinating how, to me, how you know how adaptable you need to be, or you have to be. We here in the United States take a lot of things, or if you're in Europe, you take a lot of things for granted, like the availability of the ingredients, and these ingredients just aren't available to you there. What was the hardest thing for you to source in the end, right? If I can.
I mean, at the beginning was like to find like the vanilla beans are kind of expensive and it's rare to find it here, but we found it in Chocó, around Vallasolano. So it's like the Pacific coast and it's like it tastes amazing. Like we're gonna have it in the milk chocolate, this one. So when you take a bite, you're gonna see the seeds in the inside. It's beautiful. I think the most difficult thing more of the sourcing, because I think we have a privilege of being in Colombia because we have like the perfect weather. Like we don't have a season, so we have like production of almost everything all the year. So it's for us is like easier than of course in other countries where you cannot find many fruits all the time or species. And I think the most difficult was like the creation of the formula because we don't use any preservatives or any like how do you say in English?
Chemicals.
Chemicals, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like figuring it out and trying, and that was like the most like challenging thing because like in theory, if you go to learn about chocolate, they send you these formulas where always there is these purees or these things that are already processed. So like us trying to create those purees from scratch was like the most challenging thing.
Gotcha. And just from a sourcing perspective, what I'm going to do here is we're going to start off with the tasting of the coffees, the pairings. Is that correct?
The pairings, yes.
Okay. So this is interesting to me because I don't know that I've seen them before. It looks like could be Japanese. I'm not certain, but these are little bags into which you can put, I'm assuming, either coffee or tea. Right?
Yes, exactly.
These are filter bags which are designed to fit over a cup. This sounds like a sourcing journey all by itself.
Yes, and it's different about what you usually see with the tea, that you pour all this inside the water. Here you open it, so you can extract like all the flavor and you put it like on the tea. So it's like it's a filter that is ready for pouring water. You don't need to have like something special to prepare your coffee. So
yeah, but for me, and this might, it seems like an elegant engineering solution, which is one of the reasons why I bring it up. It's, if you're going to have a chocolate and coffee pairing, and you're not going to include the coffee in the chocolates, right? Then what you need to do is you need to find a way to consistently make the coffee, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, I have an AeroPress. And so if I were to put, 12 to 15 grams of coffee into my AeroPress and, think about how much the correct ratio is for the kind of extraction that I want to get there, it's one thing. But it's, to some extent, it's, fortunately I'm using filtered water and not tap water and things like that. It's such an important part of the experience. So did finding these filters, right? And say, ooh, I can finally do the pairing, or you say, I want to do the pairing. How do we go figure out how to make the coffee?
what we were wanting is, as you mentioned, like something really to do in the moment and consistently can do it. So what we always say is like, if you pour 2 times water, is gonna be like the usual like measurement that we can like recommend. Or if you want something lighter, you can pour like 3 times water inside the bag. And we were
Was that
wanting
a
something like,
total of 200, a total of 200 mLs or a total of 400 mLs?
so in total will be 200
Okay.
milliliters.
Okay.
If you pour like 2 times, it's
Because I have a measuring cup in ml, and so I can pour a
perfect.
precise amount of water. Right. Right. No, for people who aren't geeks on this kind of stuff, it's really important, right?
Yes.
When you think about, number one, the temperature. So this water was boiling about 15 minutes ago. It's in a good thermos. I'm trying to keep it. It'll be probably about 185 F, I measured. So it'll be a reasonable temperature for its kind. But again, if you're into, so, I'm thinking about this. We have a week or 10 days. Well, we have a little bit more than 10 days until Father's Day. And I'm saying, listen, if you have a father who's a chocolate and coffee geek, this could be a really, really interesting opportunity. And that's, this is not why I brought you on, and it's not the timing and all the other kind of stuff. I mean, I met your husband in the r/chocolate subreddit, and he responded to something, and I go, ooh, this sounds really, really interesting. I want to know more about this. And that's how I got to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was less than a month ago, I think, when we made
Yes.
that arrangement. So talk to me. So this is all handmade, so we saw, in your Instagram feed, let me go over there. And, we saw in the Instagram feed, we saw this video, which is of this box. And this is how you are. So it's a combination of, painting techniques, stamping techniques, airbrushing techniques. So you're using a bunch of different ways. I'm sorry?
We use tape. Yeah.
Oh, to mask things off so the edges are crisp and clean. That makes an enormous amount of sense. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that people, paintbrushes, I mean, there's a lot of techniques here, and we're piping the ganaches into them there. So what I want to do really, really quickly is I need to pay attention, because I am doing this on my desk, right, with all my computers and all that other kind of stuff. So what I need to do is I need to pour out, I need to stand away, I need to find 200 mLs.
And we are going to start, just to give a context to everybody, we're going to start with the Magno chocolate, which is 53% and is milk chocolate. And we are going to do the pairing with the coffee from
La Sierra.
La Sierra. La Sierra is actually a neighborhood that is located in Medellin, and there is something really interesting here. This used to be a very violent neighborhood back in the 90s and around the 220s. And it's really nice to see how young people that used to be like in all these gangs in the neighborhood has started to work in the coffee plantations. So that's like an alternative of income that they are having. And this is a really special coffee. This is, let's say, like the what you usually known as a traditional Colombian coffee is this one that you're going to try right now. It's from the 3 coffees that we are going to try today. This one is the one that has like a higher intensity, higher like body, and it has an intense aroma. The acidity is middle low, and the elevation where this is produced is 1,700 meters. You guys are in.
That's close. 1,700 meters is about. It's around a mile. So just for anybody who can't easily do the conversion, it's about a mile.
Okay, and the variety of this coffee is Castillo and Colombia. It's a blend of two varieties. So we chose this coffee to pair with this chocolate because, so what we are trying to create is a balance in mouth. So the idea is that you try first the chocolate, then you try the coffee, and then you're gonna mix both together in your mouth. So
Okay.
the coffee is.
So before we jump there, Nataly, just so everybody, I need to be careful about the box because I've lifted out the little plastic separator. And this may be backwards, but this is the inside of the box, and we have the chocolates. Oh no, I left the separator in here. All right, so we're going to pull it out, and I want to, just the combination of aromas. So there's some of the coffee aroma from the packets, which is seeped through, and then you have the chocolate aromas. It's really quite remarkable. So we're going to take the middle one. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And just so everybody knows, it's like, I have one coffee sample, but I have 4 chocolates. And so if you really wanted to, and if you were really generous, you could share the coffee cup and go back and forth and to be able to share this. And I want to let you know that, these things arrived in great condition. And it's just really, really, really wonderful. And what I'm going to do, Nataly, so yeah, if you're worried about, it arriving from Colombia, I don't think you need to worry so much. And, I apologize for moving around, but I'm trying to organize my space here.
And actually, it takes just 2 days to arrive to the state. It's like, wow.
Yeah. So I brought a knife and a cutting board because, what I like to do is I like to cut things in half. Right. All right. And you can tell a lot about what things are by taking a look at the bottoms. So, very beautiful on the top, very, very well crafted on the bottom. They're just very, very nicely made. My cup. Okay. So I'm going to put this over here. Right. Doing the aroma. So I'm going to grab this one. So tell us a little about the filling. So this is a milk chocolate shell.
A milk chocolate shell, and in the inside there is a vanilla ganache from vanilla beans from Choco, which is the Pacific coast. So this chocolate has an aroma, notes of about caramel, spices, nuts, also vanilla. So we wanted to have feelings that connect with the notes of the chocolate, because we are already doing a contrast of chocolate with coffee. So we were wanting something in the same line. And then we do the balanced tasting with the coffee.
So I've cut this in half, which is not something people normally do unless they're sharing a chocolate. And, the primary aroma here is just this really, really pungent vanilla. And it is not so much like the floral vanillas that we get from Tahiti, but it's more like the darker vanillas that we would get either from Mexico or from Madagascar. That would be where I would place this, but it's not exactly either of those two. So it has its own sort of distinct character. I don't know how much of that is because of the chocolate and the other ingredients, but it's got just a wonderful, straightforward vanilla note. And then I'm also getting the coffee over the top of it, which is really quite interesting. I mean, the coffee is sitting over here, the chocolate. So what am I going to taste first?
So we are going to taste first the milk chocolate. This one that we have
before the coffee. We're going to try the chocolate before the coffee.
Chocolate, yes. Then coffee, and then both together. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But that's amazing. It's all experience.
Yeah, you're getting it's an auditory experience of eating, not normally considered to be a fun thing. What's interesting for me on a bunch of different levels. The primary flavor component for me is the vanilla, right? And then depending upon how much I suppose it would depend on how much I bite it, right? The ratio of the vanilla to the milk chocolate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the milk chocolate, which is from a big Colombian manufacturer, yes.
It's medium, let's say medium. It's not the
Okay.
biggest one, let's say like a medium manufacturer.
Okay. So, all right. So without you're telling me who your sources are, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to guess. So, the chocolate itself appears to is very well made. The texture is, it's interesting. There is a texture of biting through the ganache, which is a little chewy. There's a little bite to it. It's almost like it's al dente, right? Which is an interesting kind of texture for a ganache, especially one that you're piping it. And then the vanilla all of a sudden becomes very aromatic as the fat melts, and all of a sudden the vanilla flavor is very, very different. And then the caramel notes from the chocolate start to come through, and then they blend, and then there's this nice little, if you, in a wine tasting terms, if you're looking for guppying and retronasal breathing like you would do, then it goes back and forth. And it's a very, very clean finish at the end, which is really, really quite lovely. So what I want to say is, Mark, I know you've put a question in. I want to get through this first tasting, but then we'll get to your question afterwards. So do you want me to rinse my mouth?
Yes, please.
And now the coffee.
And now the coffee, yes.
So you sort of set me up when you said, okay, this is a kind of coffee which sort of represents, when people think of Colombia as a coffee, we think of Juan Valdez, here in the United States. And we have, mountain grown, it's the richest kind. We have these advertising slogans in our brain. And I believe, when you mentioned there were two different varieties, they would still both be Arabicas rather than Robustas, or is there
Arabica. So this
Okay.
is, so the type is Arabica, but the variety is Castilla and Colombia. So both are Arabica.
Okay. So I would think of this, as a specialty coffee from an aromatic perspective, number one.
Yes.
Number two, and this appears to be ground more like an espresso grind. I mean, I'm looking at the fineness of it. It's down at that end of the scale, which makes sense given the way that I'm brewing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. There is that robust, straightforward coffee flavor or aroma, right? But there is a small hint of some sort of fruit in there, and I'm not entirely certain what it is. I mean, it's a really quite lovely on the nose. All right. It's anyway, can I drink?
Yes.
And here's where we get to personal preferences. I probably would have liked a little less water for me. Right. I'm just probably looking at the extraction of it. And, if you like something which is a more robust and stronger coffee, it says 200 mLs, back it off to 180, try that.
But Clay, if after trying these coffees, let me know which one is your favorite, and I can send you like a full bag.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Right. It has a nice body. It's not acidic. It's not over extracted. I've been watching too many James Hoffman videos on YouTube in terms of doing this. It's a very, very pleasant coffee. I mean, there are some times when you have coffees and, you're sitting there and you really do need to pay attention to them, right? In order to be able to figure out what's going on in your mouth. For example, when I was in Panama City, actually on my way back from Colombia, I think I had a 9-hour layover, and I went to the Casco Viejo and went to a coffee shop, and they were serving geisha pour overs, right? And I'm going, I have to try a geisha pour over. And, even though it was first thing in the morning, it's like, okay, I really need to pay attention to this coffee to understand what is going on in this coffee. And the nice thing about this, it's got a really, really balanced flavor. It's not pulling me in and saying, you pay really, really close attention to me, right? And it's very, very pleasant. So this is the sort of coffee, if I just want to sit around, sit on the back porch and enjoy something. I want a cup of coffee and enjoy it. This is exactly the kind of coffee that I would be thinking of. It's, again, there's this little hint of fruit. If you're, and then the coffee thing. This is going to be really, really interesting with the vanilla.
How do you feel the sweetness in the coffee?
I'm sorry?
How do you feel like the sweetness? How do you feel the sweetness?
That's an interesting, I don't know how much of the sweetness that I taste from the coffee is left over from the chocolate. I would have had to have, right? So even though I took a glass of water, a little sip of water, I don't know how much of this is left over. But my daily coffee routine is a very, very strong, very dark roast. Right, that's my daily coffee routine in the morning with milk, because it's most of the calcium that I get in the day is from the milk I put into my coffee. But I almost never sit down with that coffee just to enjoy the coffee. It's, what I do is I'm doing everything. And what I'm saying is, which is nice about this, is I could see just sitting down and enjoying this as a cup of coffee. What I want to do then is, right, we all know that if you're going to do a pairing of chocolate with anything, what you want to do is you want to get the chocolate in your mouth. Want to chew it and mix it, get it all melted up. And then
with the coffee. I'm gonna do the same.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the time, and we're going to have to go march through the rest of these if we're going to get through everything. Not that I hope people mind if we run a little long.
Yeah, so Clay, I was asking about the sweetness because it has a special note here, the coffee. I don't know if when you came to Colombia, have you heard about panela?
Of course.
So it has like a raw cane sugar notes.
No, absolutely. I know what it is that you're talking about. I was just saying I did not know if that sweetness was remained from the chocolate. A lot of the coffee that I tasted while I was in Colombia would be what we would think of as truckers' coffee. So we're on the road and we're stopping at a toll booth, and so it's very dark and very, very sweet and very, very strong. And so I didn't have a chance to go to a specialty coffee shop when I was in Bogota and try something which was really, really special, which is something that I did, which is something that I will have to come back and do. So while I get started with the next coffee, which one are we going to do next? Because I want to give it time to.
Should we respond to Mark?
I will get there. Let me get this started.
Okay.
So which one do we want to do? We want to do the
Sierra Nevada.
Okay.
So will be this one. So this one is the design.
Right. Yeah, but which coffee?
Okay. So we are gonna do the pairing with Finca El Mirador Caicedo, which is the one that is the purple label. This one.
Okay, so your label said. So I have the old label, Escobar. You have the new label, Mirador. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was a little confused about this. What's going on? So what I want to do is I want to get this started. All right, well, we'll do that. So we got Mark from Canada. Hey, Mark, I hope you're still watching. We'll get to this. And so what Mark wants to know, if you'll ship to Canada.
We don't. Sadly, we don't. We would like to do it, but right now we do shipping in Colombia and in the United States. I hope maybe if you can order to the United States, if you travel sometime or here in Colombia, we will be very happy.
Is that a Federal Express thing? So is it like documents and things like that?
Yes, it's more about like documentation. So, and sanitary permits, because they are different to each country.
That makes sense. So you can get a phytosanitary certificate for export to the United States, but the documentation for exporting to Canada is going
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
different.
we will have to do like a whole process to
Gotcha,
get
understand.
that
Right.
documentation.
So the reason why I wanted to do that is that these things can be just a little bit finicky in terms of opening them up. So just to note, and I don't want to spill ground coffee all over my computer table. All right, so I'm getting, right, because I'm doing this for the first time, I'm leaning over and getting another 200 mLs because this one may be different. So tell us a little bit
Or
about
maybe
this.
less if you like darker.
But I don't know if the roast is the same. The beans are going to be different. I'm going to. The thing is, start off with what you know, and then you have to dial in the ratios and
Okay.
figure that out. So, Mark, glad to hear that you're still there. I see. Thank you. I don't know where you are in Canada, but perhaps you have a friend who lives in a border town, and you can get it shipped to a border town, and then you can arrange to smuggle it right across the border or something like that. So we have here the finca, El Mirador, which is where you got. So
I want to explain a little bit about finca,
yeah,
which is the farm. So
yeah,
we have the traceability of the farm. That is like, wow, it's not like a blend of coffees just in the region. No, it comes from a farm called El Mirador. And so this one, it's in a region called Caicedo. So all these regions, so Caicedo and also Urrao that we're going to see, then it's in the southwest of Antioquia, which is a very well-known coffee producer region in Colombia.
I believe it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yes.
I have to change this, right? Because, oh no, it's El Mirador is the correct one. Okay. So again, this is why we created the map, right? If you get one of these boxes, you can go and look at the map and say, hey, there's what part of the country this particular coffee or ingredient comes from. I'm really, really intrigued by this, Nataly, because the description says 48 fermentation in cherry.
Yes. So that
so
one is the big difference with the last one, because the last one, it was fermented by the mucilage, which is like mucilago, exactly. Yes, the pulp. This one, we let the cherry. We don't take it out, so the fermentation process, like you will feel like these notes of like a berry blend and fruity that comes from the cherry, because it's a different process and in the fermentation.
Gotcha. So I'm going to go grab.
So the last one, as I was saying, is more like the Colombian profile that everybody knows, and this coffee is more like with a cherry blend. And we are gonna have it with the Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada is like a group of mountains in Colombia that it's amazing. There is snow in the top, but it's next to the ocean, this beautiful blue ocean, nice beach. So there is like a micro ambience that is very diverse in the Sierra Nevada.
So I've been there. We went to Santa Marta.
Yes,
right? And then we drove up into the mountains to Minca.
Yes.
Which is a famous tourism area for coffee, but it's also getting a reputation for interesting chocolate. So tell us a little bit about what the ganache is in this piece.
So in this piece is a berry blend ganache. So we wanted in the same also like line of notes. So this one is it has raspberries, blackberries, and it's missing one. Sorry, I forgot the name in English. Frambuesa. It's frambuesa in English.
That's raspberry.
Sorry. So it's raspberry, blackberry, and so, and this comes from Cundinamarca, which is the state where it's located, Bogota. So it's like close from Bogota is Tocancipá and Zipaquirá, where these berries comes from. So this one is, it has raspberries, blackberries, and it's missing one. Sorry, I forgot the name in English. Frambuesa. It's what all, like, it's important also that the coffee,
Mm-hmm.
the acidity is middle. The last one was more like middle low. This one has a
Yeah.
little higher acidity. And this coffee was produced in a farm that is 2,000 meters, so a little bit more than the mile that we were talking about, the last one.
So one of the things I think is interesting about the ganache is that you decided not to strain the seeds from the jam. And so
Yes,
unexpectedly, there is a texture, and unexpected, it's surprising, but in a good way. I mean, I like the toothsomeness of it. I'm looking at the ingredients. I'm going, where does that texture come from? Where does that texture come from? It's not an inclusion. It's just because of the fact that you left the seeds in. Many people might have a challenge with that because we think of a ganache, and if it doesn't say like a praline, l'ancien, an ancient, we're not expecting a texture
the
to be there.
texture.
And it's really, but it's a very, very clean mixed berry flavor, right? Nicely balanced with the chocolate. The chocolate doesn't present itself in the same way as the chocolate in the milk one, right? It's really, really there as a very, very strong supporting character for the mixed berries. And it's difficult to tell, is it raspberry forward? Is it some other kind of is it blackberry forward? Don't know the answer to that question, but it's a really, really pleasant mix of the three flavors. So it's really, really nice. And if I try the
Yes,
coffee,
you know
go
what
ahead. I'm
we
sorry.
thought with the seeds of the fruits, like we do everything natural and we want to keep like that, the same like connection when you try the chocolates.
No, I have to admit, so I made this with the 200 mLs. Again, it's a little light for me. I like things which are a little, the appearance of more heavily extracted. But the acidity is much more forward there. I'm not a huge fan of acidic, coffees in general. So this is not necessarily to my taste. But if I think about how it's going to go with the chocolate again, this is yummy. I mean, the combination of, I like the coffee with the chocolate more than I like the coffee on its own. And for
I,
me, I mean,
that's like the perfect pairing, always coffee and chocolate. It's amazing.
yeah. So, what I will say, which I didn't say, the first pairing, which I thought was interesting, is if you're a fan of cappuccinos, you're a fan of a rich coffee milk drink, right? And you throwing a little bit of caramel drizzle over the top, right? Then the first pairing is really going to be up your alley. I mean, this is when you put the two of those together and you put them in your mouth, it's like, oh my gosh, I have a fabulous coffee drink, right? With that represents, the kind of coffee that I love. This is, again, more challenging because of the acidity and the fruit. Again, while the coffee is not generally to my taste, in the sense that I wouldn't choose to purchase it and make it for myself over and over again, the combination here is just really luscious. Really, really, really luscious. I mean, it's really, really nice.
I'm glad you like it.
And even, so I have my little cup so this is my chocolate and coffee fest mug where I'm putting the coffees, right, when I get done from this chocolate and coffee pairing. The reason why I'm doing that is I want to start on getting the third one brewed.
So the third one is the darker chocolate that we have in this presentation, which is Arauca. This was decorated with gold, this piece that I has here. So the concept of our chocolate is that they are gems, so we decorate them with 24 karat gold. This is like a very thin layer of gold. And then we have filling in the inside that we call it like a mousse of orange and honey.
Ooh. And this is local orange. Again,
yes.
If anybody wants to know the source of the orange, it's listed. It's listed on the map.
It's So the oranges comes from Granada Meta. Meta is another state, and honey from San Luis, Antioquia. Antioquia is the state, and San Luis is the town. And we are gonna do the pairing with the Urrao. Urrao, actually, it's Urrao. This is
Ura.
this coffee from La Falda.
La Falda. I got it
Falda
correct.
Farm. This one.
I can tell this coffee is completely different from the first two. I mean, I'm just doing this. There's a sort of like a funkiness to it, is the way I would describe it. It's, oh, wow. And then there's this really, really interesting warm spice note right in the middle that's just like really strong. It reminds me is like almost, from like, like almost of an Indian spice blend. I mean, this is really, really fascinating in terms of, and I'm dipping my nose right into this. That's probably not the best way to smell it because I'm smelling the wet grounds, not necessarily the coffee itself. But man, it is really, really interesting.
This one is from a variety of coffee that is called Caturra Chiroso. Caturra Chiroso is very well known in this region, Urrao, and it has that spice that you feel that it's a little like citrus. It's like lemongrass.
Wet lemongrass. Right. I have never smelled coffee that has smelled like this. It's really intrigued. And I'm thinking orange and honey in the chocolate. And I'm going, oh my gosh. I mean, this is just going to be a symphony of flavors in my mouth. I'm just looking.
I'm really excited that you tried this one.
Yeah.
This one is more mild. So or are you going to also pour the 200 milliliters?
I put 200 in.
Okay.
Again, it's the first time I make it. If I were to make it again, I might.
Yeah, so in the same condition, so you can. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. This is a wonderful expression of orange. I mean, it's very, very bright and very, very fresh. I mean, it has aspects of the juice with a little bit of the zest in it. Very, very clean, very straightforward. I mean, I'm not getting much of a sense of the varietal aspect of the honey in it, right? But I think that the honey is doing a really, really good job of bringing the sweetness of the orange forward. So, and then way back in my throat at the end, as it clears my mouth, there's just all of a sudden, that's where the honey comes in. It's really, really, really good. And the piece itself is just gorgeous. The piece itself is gorgeous. I mean, we tend to see people who might do, a little bit of finger painting, or they might do a brush painting, or they might do airbrushes or spatter, but it's rare that you see, a combination of these kinds of techniques, and especially if you're doing some gold leaf after the fact.
Yes, and if you see the color of this, it has like
you're using a sponge. Using a sponge.
Sponge, and look like the paint. It has like if you move it, it looks like a kind of like
there's a little bit of iridescence going on.
Yes, it's like I don't know how to say in English, like a pearly.
Pearlescent. Yes, pearlescent is what we say in English. Yeah. Yeah.
Color, so it's really elegant and beautiful, this design. I actually this design is one of my favorites. Right. Clay, we are participating in the awards.
Good.
We submitted today the chocolates.
So the International Chocolate Awards?
Yes.
Well, good luck on all of that. So this is the Americas round of the International Chocolate Awards?
Yeah, the Latin America. Yeah. They split it like in
now
North America and Latin America, yeah.
So, what's interesting here is that this is a coffee that you want to pay attention to, right? This is not just, I'm going to sit here and have it as a part of what it is, just drink it as opposed to taste it, I suppose is the best way to describe it. You want to taste this and pay attention to what's going on. The aroma that was in the grounds is here, right on the nose. It's not as strong, but it's still just such an unusual aroma it's really, really quite lovely. Again, I'm not certain. I mean, it's sort of like this is like a special occasion dessert coffee for me, right? I'm doing it as a part of presentation, right, where I'm sharing.
Yes, like this box is perfect for having a plan. Like you can be like with your family or friends and do this pairing with 3-4 people, because you can share like the chocolates and everything, and it's a really nice experience from different regions, different aromas. I want to know which one. I
just want to let you know. So Mark says, I want to try these, right? And they look amazing, as does the packaging. I got to say, absolutely. I'm impressed with the fit and finish of the packaging, the attention to detail, the fit and finish of the pieces. And there are times when you get a box. I took pictures, and the link to the Instagram. I'm gonna put the link to your Instagram feed and all that other kind of stuff, so people can go look at this stuff closely. There are times when you get a box and then you open it up and what's inside doesn't match your expectations that have been set by the packaging. And one of the things about this so far is I opened this up just to make sure that the chocolates arrived in good condition. And then I opened it up this morning because I took it out of the refrigerator, right, and made sure that there was no condensation or anything that had.
Clay, something really important, like we in Magno do the chocolates and the coffee. It's from a supplier that is called Honesto. It's a brand that we love and that we made like a collaboration with them because they have also like a really nice social impact, because they pay the coffee to the coffee producers like to fair prices in change of have a really high quality coffees. Like actually the coffee that you just have won Taza de Antioquia. Taza de Antioquia is a really well-known and recognized qualification in Colombia, and that coffee won. In coffee, there is like coffees above 84 points are considered special coffees. And this one has a qualification of 87. From the ones that you just try, is the highest one. And
gotcha.
I think when you start to do like, oh my, these flavors and everything, I was like, maybe that one is going to be his favorite.
Well, it's the coffee itself is the most challenging of the three, right? There's more going on and it needs to be deconstructed. So when I think about how I think about pairings in general, in this particular case, does the coffee make the chocolate taste better? Does the chocolate make the coffee taste better? Is the combination greater than the sum of the parts? And sometimes the combinations like fall apart and they go ick, right? They're just not very tasty. So I think, when I think about the first one was, man, this is really pleasant. This is really nice, right? It's just a nice one. The second one is a little more challenging, but the combination of flavors, the fruitiness, right, and the acidity blended very nicely. But it was nothing unexpected, right? The combination of the orange and honey with this particular coffee, the blend of flavors in the mouth is completely unexpected. I mean, it is not the coffee, it is not the chocolate, it is completely different, right? And it is different in a way that I never would have anticipated. It is, off the charts interesting, right? In terms of doing it. Again, the coffee itself is one that I would choose to present in a special setting, right? I want to share, and it's a plated dessert, or it's this chocolate. It's a really interesting kind of thing, because, if you're a chocolate fan and you're a coffee fan, and you were to if you were putting these two separately, tasting them separately, and then tried to imagine what they would be like before you put them together in your mouth, you would be wrong, right? You would be wrong. And I think it's that unexpectedness here, which really intrigues me and I really, really love about, it's like the combination is like way off the charts better than either of them. And both of them are really amazing on their own. They start at a different level and they end in like a different planet. I mean, it's really, really, really quite lovely. Yeah, I'm saying I'm gonna try to keep this peace, and how long are they gonna last? And can I find coffee and all that other kind of stuff? And we haven't even finished yet, people. We haven't even finished yet, people, because we have this package, which is called the Perfect Bar, and inside this box, the just a little quick note on packaging: the glue that you're using to put this together is a little too strong.
Yes,
right?
I know.
So I had to struggle mightily to get this open without destroying the box.
We actually we are like, when I get this chip, they didn't send it with that because I already told them in the production facility, because we need to change.
Okay, so we have 3 bars here. We have a dark chocolate, chocolate oscuro, 58%, caramelo, y sal de Himalaya. So 58% dark chocolate, right?
It's
with
semi-dark,
caramel and sea salt caramel. I don't know which order we're doing them. I just pulled them out and did this.
I think it will be like the white chocolate. I think this one is like one of, like,
which is the golden berries. So not just caramelized macadamia, fresas, which I believe is your strawberries, right? And
golden berries.
Uchuvas. Right, that's goldenberry. Liofilizado, so freeze-dried goldenberry. So it comes in the packaging is fun. There's an opening here, right? And then the bag is printed in a really, really interesting way. And then there's another. So this is a sleeve, and then there's a bag inside of it. I assume this is all compostable and recyclable kind of stuff.
Yes.
And so here we have a white chocolate bar, and I'm opening it up, and it's a challenge. If there's one thing, it's like, okay, you're going to have to eat the whole thing because it's going to be a challenge to put back together, all right, and put back into the box. But, right, if you're like big inclusions on the backs of your bars, then this is pretty amazing. It'll just take me a while. I'm just going to go like this. There's the back of the bar, everyone. So golden berries, strawberries, and caramelized macadamia nuts. So
the golden berries and the strawberries comes from a region called El Rosal in Cundinamarca. And the macadamias, caramelized macadamias, comes from Sevilla, from a state called El Valle. Valle del Cauca. So I love this one. Like, actually, I'm more like I love dark chocolate, but this white chocolate bar is like amazing because you have the acidity of the golden berries that are very exotic. They're delicious, and it's not like the chewy fruit that you sometimes find in bars, because these one are freeze dried, so they are like crunchy. The texture is really nice, and it combines really well with the creamy white chocolate. Actually, this white chocolate it's trustable because this chocolate comes from 3 regions in Colombia: Tumaco, Santander, and Huila. So it's a mix from those 3 regions. And the special of this white chocolate is that we don't use like the cacao. The cacao butter is not deodorized; it's natural, so it's really good. It's really creamy, and it has like the crunchy of the macadamias. So it's. Let me know what you think.
So the third coffee was the La Falva?
The
Caturra Chiroso.
Caturra Chiroso.
Okay. It's amazing with the golden berries. right? It really does bring out the tanginess of the golden berry. Now, for people who have followed me and know me at all, they know that when I judge competitions, I like judging the flavored white chocolate bar category and the white chocolate with inclusions category. Right? All I got to say is this bar is going to sit on my table. It will be gone before the end of the day. Right? I mean, number one is I don't want to struggle with putting it back in the box. But number two, it's good cocoa butter, undeodorized cocoa butter. It's the basis of a good undeodorized cocoa butter is the basis, natural cocoa butter is the basis of a white chocolate. With this combination of caramelized mac nuts, maybe one of my favorite things in the world is a good caramelized mac nut. And again, it's the difference in acidity and fruitiness between the golden berry and the strawberry. It's just a lovely, and then that difference in texture, the softness of the cocoa butter, followed by the mac nuts, followed by the fruit. I mean, it's a wonderful. So if you were to enter this into the Craft Chocolate Challenge, right, you would have at least one judge who is predisposed to really like it.
We actually entered that one.
Into the International Chocolate Awards.
That bar.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, just to let you know, because the way the International Chocolate Awards breaks up samples for the judges, it's going to be really hard for every judge to get a piece which has everything in it. One of the great things about the Craft Chocolate, one of the things about the Craft Chocolate Challenge is that every judge gets a whole bar, right?
And how many judges?
It's like 8 or 9 judges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we sent like 5 bars, so hopefully.
Yeah. Well, but that's the only. But in the Craft Chocolate Challenge, that's the only cost to entry. There's no other entry fee. It's just the cost of the bar, the cost of whatever you're shipping.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't want to do that. So we have a 58% dark chocolate with cookie dough.
Yes. So what we were trying to do with this box is have different experience. One that is really indulgence, that is gonna be like the cookie dough that is more sweet. People that are sweet tooth. This one that is more fruity, exotic, and the caramelized salty caramel with dark chocolate is to combine that salt and sweet. So to have 3 completely different experiences. That was our main goal.
Right. I can see this going really well with the first coffee. Right.
Yeah.
Right. If I really, it's like we think about having dunking a donut into milk or donut into coffee or something like that, putting this into a coffee, the combination of the cookie dough with the chocolate. It's a little sweeter than I would normally eat for myself, but
I get the idea. One of the biggest challenges, for us in the beginning, in Colombia, here people, it's really sweet tooth.
Yes.
As you could see with Jet, which is the main chocolate bar of Colombia, the most popular is a lot of really sweet. But it's changing every time. People is requesting more for dark chocolate and dark chocolate. So I think we have to have a variety of different experiences, but looking for things really balanced, so it's a good experience in mouth. That's the salted caramel.
So anybody who likes cheese pull on a grilled cheese sandwich, this is the salted caramel. So just from a technical perspective, what you're doing is you're doing a mold, you're creating a shell in the mold, you're emptying it out, then you're piping the caramel into this and then putting it back on it.
It was a challenge in the beginning because it's
with a mold this thin, I mean, that's quite a challenge. So yeah. Okay. The balance on this is really nice. Okay. And what I would say is, listen, if you grew up on Cadbury Caramello and you're looking for an adult version of a Cadbury Caramello, this is a place where you want to go. If I'm a Caramello bar, right, and I'm dreaming about what it is that I'm going to happen when I get to heaven, this is what I'm dreaming of. The salt does a really good job of cutting down on the sweetness, right? Which is really nice without making itself too present. You know that it's salt that's in there, but it's not overly salty. The salt is part of the caramel, so you're not getting a crunch of salt. You're going to be getting the texture of salt. But you've done a good job in terms of what the texture of the caramel is. And there's a nice chew in the caramel. It's a lovely piece. I'm a huge fan of salted caramel. And I think that one of the challenges with salted caramel is when it comes to chocolate, it's one of the world's favorite combinations. Salted caramel. If you're a chocolate maker, you're a chocolatier, and you don't do salted caramel something, right? You're making a mistake.
Yeah, it's true.
And especially in this day and age when cacao prices are going like this, right? And you think about other things that you can do, doing a good job with salted caramel, which can come in lots of different textures, right? And lots of flavors. I mean, it's a wonderfully malleable ingredient. But
like even though, I was thinking also like for a bonbon to mix it with the macadamias or a nut in the inside and the salted caramel and dark chocolate. I think that can be.
Oh yeah, nice. And what I would, what I would do is I'm looking at the honey orange ganache, and I'm saying, how can I put those honey orange flavors into the caramel? Because I think that would be just a really, really fabulous combination. I think it would be much more popular than trying to get the fruit flavors, from into the caramel. But again, the packaging is again, you've got this sleeve inside the middle, so there's a 3D component to it. The packaging is easy to understand. The internal packaging protects the chocolate quite well, and the actual fit and finish of all the pieces is just really, really nice as well. So again, just really, really quite remarkably wonderful to do this. I had no idea, what kind of condition this stuff was going to be in. And one of the reasons why is you sent me an experimental bar. I don't think it was tempered properly, which is what you said. It looked like it was bloomed. I don't think it was tempered properly. I'll get to that, and I will give you that my thoughts on it after.
The one that we create from scratch, the chocolate bar.
Yeah. So I think it was not tempered properly, rather than it being bloomed. But I'll get to that. I just wanted to get through this first, and I wanted to make sure that this stuff was in really, really good condition today. Because
yes, I think what could happen is because we are just trying to create our own chocolate, so we maybe was the first time that we were tempering, so maybe we have to look at the curve.
Yeah, it's a very, very different set of skills. Right, than buying a couverture, which has got the temperature curves on it, and where to go.
Yeah.
So Nataly, what's next? What's next for Magno?
Clay. So what? Like, I take advantage. You ask me that because I haven't mentioned anything about what we are doing here with the cocoa farmers, and we are working with them in a program that I already mentioned. And it is the Chocolate Dream. We are part of that program where I am doing educational training to the farmers, because we have a problem here in Colombia, and it is that the cocoa producer, it has been always like a family business, that the grandfather did it, then the father, then the son, etc., the daughter. But right now the young people is going to the cities and leaving the countryside, so we are starting to have like that issue. So it's like how can I help them to have like different incomes and staying in the countryside so they can continue with the cocoa business. So I'm doing like this program that it's like an entrepreneurial program where I'm teaching them like how about the basics of financial things, entrepreneurial things, like a product packaging, all of that. We are doing this in Huila, and I wanted to mention because, of course, all Magno Chocolates is helping this program. And another important thing is that in Magno is run by women, so all our members are women. That especially in the pandemia, we growed a lot because it was like it was a surprise for us because everybody in pandemia was like scary about what is going to happen with your business. But what happened is that in pandemia, everybody was giving gifts because you couldn't see your family or friends, so you were giving gifts, and those people were knowing about Magno and was giving also to other people gifts, and it starts to be like a chain that we growed a lot, and we could hire people that lost their jobs during the pandemia and grow the team. And right now we are 11 women that are working in Magno. So I was just wanting to tell a little about that social impact that we have as a company. And we do deliveries in the United States, Magno Chocolates .us. You can order.
Yep. So let's do that. So here again is the post for today's episode. If you scroll down, what you'll do is you'll find a link to the homepage of the Magno.us website. So this is the e-commerce website. You'll find links to the individual pages for the coffee and chocolate origin tasting box, as well as the perfect bar selection kit. So you can go and do that and support the work that is being done. Again, if you've got someone in your family, you've got a father in your family who you're looking for something to do for Father's Day, who's both a coffee and a chocolate fan, this could be it. And with that, Nataly, I want to thank you very much for all the time you've given me today, and everything, the generosity of sharing with me. I think it's been very, very much appreciated, and hopefully the people who watch this will also feel the same way. I noticed that normally at the end of an hour, maybe an hour and 5 minutes, we start to see a drop off of people watching, and the numbers, at least on YouTube, have remained pretty consistent. So we haven't lost anybody, which is a good thing. So fascinating. And one of the things I love about what it is that I do is being able to share, right, the stories of the people that I meet from around the world. And it's been just really, really a lovely opportunity to share the stories with you today, Nataly. It's been a great thing. And also to remind people, yes, before we go, I'll let you get the next to the last word, right, is to remind everybody that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is sponsored by and supported by the members of The Chocolate Life. If you're not a member of The Chocolate Life, you can go click on TheChocolateLife.com. You can go there. If you're not logged in, you're not a member, you can click on this. It'll say join. You can become a member of The Chocolate Life and support the work that we do here. If you're watching on YouTube and you like the video, go give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, so you'll be notified of future episodes of Pod Save Chocolate. We tend to do them every Tuesday and every Friday at about this time. And yes, Nataly, I'm sorry I cut you off because I needed to do my own promotion here, not just promote you and your work.
No, thanks to you.
Was that it? Was that it?
Just no, Clay, no, two things. The first one is I want to give like a token of appreciation of the people that is watching us here. And of course you, and is that if you guys anytime go to visit Medellin, Colombia, please contact us and told us that you were watching the Pod Save Chocolate about Magno Chocolates, and we can give you a tour.
Nataly, I have a better idea, right? Which is let Magno Chocolates and the Chocolate Life collaborate on organizing a tour of Colombia, where people can come and visit the factory, but also get a tour of a coffee farm, get a tour of a cacao farm.
Amazing. Yes.
I don't think many people have been to a macadamia nut plantation and have no idea what they look like, maybe not even seen vanilla growing, right, live. So I think that there could be a very, very interesting, looking at the map, right? As long as we get to go to, so we'll talk about that as a possibility. Mark from Canada is still watching, saying thanks for sharing. Mark, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for being here today. And that was one thing of two things. What was the second thing you wanted to say now?
To say thank you to you. Thank you
Oh.
for having us. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to me to can share our story. There is a lot of people like right. Our suppliers, our employees that that are very happy that we are part of this episode. And it's a pleasure for us that you could try our chocolates and coffee and hear all the feedback.
It's my pleasure. And what I do want to do is really out is, yes, everybody, chocolate makes people happy. So if you're working, remember, if you're working with chocolate,